Today's sponsor of the Vision Quest podcast is 920 Hat Company. Leather patch hats are in, and 920 Hat Company is here to hook you up with your very own custom hat. All patches are lasered on top-grade genuine leather and on popular brand hats like Richardson and FlexFit. Whether you're looking to show off your business or want a one-of-a-kind hat for yourself, 920 Hat Company can do it all. All the hats are handcrafted right in the Fox Valley, but worn across America. With over 500 hats in stock, they guarantee fast turnaround times. Honestly, Liam, looking at these hats, solid, right?
Yeah, they're pretty. I like them.
I like that patch itself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one-of-a-kind stuff. I know his name's Trevor. He does great work. He's actually gotten I think we got a knit hat coming.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we got that coming. So we're really excited to have these guys on board as a sponsor. So get down to check them out on Facebook. I believe they're on Instagram. Check them out, man. They got the best hats, I think, in the Fox Valley, if not in the state.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So get down to 920 Hat Company on social media and check them out. All right, man. I am joined today, number one, by my son, Liam.
Hello.
Hi. How you doing? We are joined. This is a pretty... I'm impressed that you responded to me, number one. This is pretty... And I'm going to go out right and use my French on this. It's pretty fucking cool, dude. It's pretty sweet that you took the time out to be able to talk to us. So I am going to introduce to you the 125-pound NCAA champion, Pat Glory, man. How are you doing?
That still doesn't get old, that introduction. Yeah, it's hard to be doing bad, nowadays. So I'm just trying to enjoy every second of it, and just reaping the kind of the good weather that's coming out too in New Jersey. So it's been great.
Oh my God, we got what, 16 inches of snow?
Yeah, we just got blasted with a good 16 inches the other. It's pretty cool.
Oh God.
Well, it melted pretty fast.
We didn't get a lot of that.
No.
You don't got to brag.
Not yet this year, but...
So we were just talking about, we're privileged enough to join you along with your girlfriend. You guys are taking a little road trip. So you guys, we're
she's right here.
We appreciate you allowing us to be along for that ride. So hopefully we can take you along for a ride, just kind of talking about your wrestling journey. If there's anything, and I tell everybody all the time, if there's anything off limits, you just say, screw you. I'm not talking about that right now. We got to talk about that later. But there's a lot to talk about. So we're not just going to talk about your championship, man. We're here to talk about you. We're here to talk about you from start to finish, to what just happened a couple weeks ago, man, to right to your car ride now. So
I love it.
Pat, you've been in wrestling for a while. You've been doing this stuff. It's not, this isn't something that you just started your freshman year of high school, right?
Yeah, no. I started in probably the first grade, maybe.
Okay.
I was always the first percentile height and weight. So, my parents had to brainstorm a little bit and get creative in terms of what I could do, because it didn't look like football was going to be a very realistic option. And, it's like, you have some of these kids that can swing a baseball bat and throw a baseball like you wouldn't believe. So, wrestling was one of those things that it was like I was matched up with kids that were my age and my size, and kind of leveled the playing field. And I found my identity in it at a very, very early age.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah,
and I was blessed to be around really, really high level wrestling from basically the inception of my wrestling career.
Yeah.
Because New Jersey wrestling is just very dense. It's very densely populated with super, super high level wrestling. So
yes,
I always kind of allude back to that. Like, I was super, super blessed to be in the situation that I was.
Yeah.
Well, because obviously things like grappling or like MMA, jiu-jitsu and all like that is the same thing. You're weighing in your guys, your size and stuff like that. Did you ever try that before wrestling, or was that not really in the cards?
Yeah, I never did I did like karate, but like that was more of like a hobby, and more so than like a martial art for me.
Yeah.
Really it was pretty much just wrestling. I didn't have any connection to jiu-jitsu or anything like that. Like my dad he's one of 4 brothers.
Okay.
So, and like all of his brothers wrestled. So like and my mom's brothers wrestled and stuff like that. So
Oh, nice.
I had a connection to wrestling, but not really any other martial art, I would say. So
yeah.
that was kind of like my initial kind of way that I got introduced to the sport.
So were you a mat rat? Was it something where you were just put into it at crawling age and you just remember being in a wrestling room and that's kind of where it kind of evolved, or were you remember first grade and as far as that being like competition, or was that really your first experience with wrestling?
Yeah, no, it was like one of those clinic type situations where, I didn't really wrestle in anything. If anything, we had like a jamboree here or there.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and you just like, it's like, you just have, it's a bunch of little guys just going
throwing
at
each
it
other
and
around.
just having fun. Everyone gets a juice box at the end. Like, it's great.
Like a soccer game.
So, yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like everyone's like, doing pull-ups on the pull-up bar and like, messing around after, it was just very laid back.
Nice.
I would say that when I really started getting like realizing my potential,
Yeah.
or kind of like when I thought like, hey, maybe I am really a wrestler.
Yep.
The third grade, I had a pretty good. So that was my first year in what in basically like my youth league,
Yep.
like my youth wrestling league.
Yep.
Called the Tri-County.
Okay.
And so basically I was the 50 pounder, which was the first weight class.
Nice.
And then,
In
it
third
goes
grade.
all the way up. It goes all the way up through 8th grade up to heavyweight. Right.
Yep.
So I was wrestling as a third grader with, guys that were going to college for wrestling. We had a really, really good team that year
Nice.
for the Tri-County. And at the time, the Tri-County was a very, very competitive wrestling league. Like,
Wow.
you had multiple, state champs in high school, and, guys that were going to the Division I level, all coming out of this youth wrestling league in Northwest New Jersey.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So, so I kind of saw them, right? Like kind of saw these other guys that were having success and winning the tournament.
Yeah.
And so I went to the state tournament that year. So I didn't win the Tri-County. I think I took maybe third that year at a pretty tough weight class.
Sure.
And then I went to the, and again, this is third grade.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
50 pounds, right? Like, it's like anybody could win any given match at any given time, right?
Yeah.
And so I went to the state tournament and I wound up making it to the finals.
Yep.
And in my first ever state tournament, and I had a barn burner of a match with a kid named Vinny Andriano, who weirdly enough I wound up being high school teammates with, and like we're very, very good friends to this day.
Nice.
And he was at the time like the Triple Crown winner.
Ooh.
Like next like David Taylor type of
level
like
stuff.
protege.
Yeah.
Like he was the guy. And I had a really close match with him. Like I was winning in the third period.
Yeah.
And he got an escape and then a takedown in the last 30 seconds of the match.
Yeah.
So it was like it was a really tough loss.
Right
But then again, I'm like, it kind of made me realize, well, first of all, that I had work to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And second of all, that I was right there.
Yeah. You're right there,
Like that
man.
I was like, really, really clear. And I was like, okay, and maybe I am a wrestler. Like maybe I deserve to be here.
Right.
So then I went back to my elementary school. I had my I'll never forget this light blue New Jersey State Wrestling Tournament hoodie.
Yeah.
And I had my weight class and my second on the side, and everyone was like praising me for doing so well, right?
Yeah.
And I mean I didn't win,
Oh.
right? So I kind of just right from then and there I was like I kind of just identified as a wrestler, and
Yeah.
kind of walked around with this like wrestling swagger maybe in a way,
Yep.
and then it kind of took off from there. But then it kind of went down before it went up from there. Right.
Okay.
I wound up taking 7th in the state the next year, and like lost to guys that I really feel like I was better than.
Yep.
And that I kind of kept going, and I think I wound up taking 2nd in like the 6th grade, and never won a youth state tournament, but like I think I took 2nd 3 times.
Yep.
From 3rd grade to 8th grade, I took 3rd a couple times.
Yeah.
There was a 7th here or there. So I just kind of was like up and down all throughout middle school, but never really like reached the pinnacle. Like never really had that, like I could never really call myself a champ.
You're right. Right. Yeah.
I wound up winning the Tri-County, the youth wrestling league that I was in. I wound up winning that tournament a couple times, but that was pretty much the extent of it.
Yeah.
So I never got that state title. But
so with you coming up in that, you coming up in that type of program, were the coaches consistent? Were there coaches coming in and out of the room? Was it like, or did you guys have were these dedicated like dads or guys that have been around those wrestling programs the whole time?
Yeah, so my first youth coach in the Randolph rec program was this guy named Ryan Brennan. Okay. And he was a Randolph. He went to Randolph High School. He didn't have a kid in the program, but he's a young guy. I think he was still living around the area.
Yeah.
And excuse me. He wrestled at Rutgers.
Yep.
And
okay.
I don't think he ever All-American. He might have been a couple of times national qualifier. But like, yeah, still a very, very,
well decorated wrestler, yeah.
Decorated wrestler, but like kept things simple, I would say.
Yeah.
Like had like very good technical things, but like simple things. Like had a really good cross-face cradle.
Okay.
Right. And I think I cradled like 90% of the kids that you know what I mean? Like little things like turning the corner on a high crotch. Like, just like the little tiny fundamentals that were really important. But like, you don't need to know how to do, cartwheeling out of a, seatbelt position or something like that, right? As a third grader.
Yeah.
So I think he really helped me hammer down like the basic fundamentals.
Yep.
And then a couple years later, this guy named Carl DeStefanis, who was a national champion at Penn State.
That sounds familiar.
In 1984.
Yeah.
He grew up in Randolph. His daughter was my age. I went to elementary school, middle school with her.
Okay.
And his son was a couple years younger than me. So when his son got to the third grade and came to the Tri-County, he kind of took over. And honestly, is a huge reason why I felt like I ever even had a dream to win a national championship, because he was such a normal, down to earth guy.
Yep.
Like you would never ever have known that he had accomplished such a feat and such a hard goal.
Yep.
So I had a lot of respect for him since day one, and just kind of wanted to emulate him and his personality and who he was.
Well, and that's always kind of like what I thought, especially going out east. And we take Liam out to Journeyman and stuff like that. So we hit a lot of those tournaments out there, but just knowing the background and the history that you guys have out on the East Coast is kind of why I asked that question, because then as you were telling, it was a former Rutgers wrestler, a former Penn State wrestler. So you guys already kind of had that edge, having those guys with the knowledge and everything like that around. So as a third grader, you're getting that. And so that, I mean, even when you're talking about just, seventh place and, this year in fifth place, I'm only imagining like matches that were probably like high school championship type matches where you get, with the type of guys that you had that you were around and surrounded by. I mean, just not only with the coaches that you had, but that whole area, that East Coast line, they had it right. So you you really had a really good grasp on just kind of the simple side of it, because a lot of times you hear those college guys come on, they're like, yeah, all that fancy garbage, you don't need that. This is right here is what does it. So you're getting that intelligence right away. So you guys were just getting smart wrestling. When you started, and you said you noticed that there was this progression that you saw as far as, coming through, grade school, middle school. What was middle school kind of an area where you starting to travel more for wrestling? When did you start kind of getting out of the area?
Yeah. So third grade was second in the state. Fourth grade was seventh. And I didn't do much club from third grade to fourth grade. I kind of was doing all my sports. I was like, like baseball in the spring, taking the summer times off. Doing football in the fall. I was still a multi-sport athlete.
Sure. But,
I still did identify myself as a wrestler, probably because it was just the thing that I was best at.
Yeah.
So after that seventh place, like I really felt like I wasn't prepared maybe, or these kids were going to clubs and in my head, I just wasn't at that same level as them maybe.
Yep.
And kind of started to see a little bit of a gap. And so that's when I started going to clubs and really ramping up kind of like my off season wrestling routine. And I feel like that also definitely helped me kind of like expand my, wrestling, repertoire, so to speak.
Yep.
And kind of allowed me to like get access to like several different styles of wrestling.
Sure.
That I could then start to like my own style. Like, you know, I could start to, like, perfect certain things and like really like know what I wanted to get to every match and prepare.
Yeah.
You know, and again, like you said, like I started going to like these dual meet tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them was like the ACW, like the holiday tournament down in Virginia.
Yep.
I think it was, I think they call it VAC, right? I don't know if it's still
VAC.
called VAC.
Yep,
it
is. Yep, VAC. Yep.
That was a freaking ringer of a tournament, man. I mean, that I wrestled like Jordan Crace, like guys like that. Like there was like really, really good. Brian Stewart was a guy who I remember wrestling in like the 4th grade, like, you know, 55, 60 pounds. So, I mean, there was really high level guys that I was wrestling, you know, at those national tournaments, getting the crap beat out of me. But I mean, it was like, hey, like, this is where we need to get to.
Exactly.
Right. It kind of showed me where we're at. And I definitely credit a lot to it actually, for me, was a lot cooler to go to like the dual meet tournaments rather than the individual ones, because like the stress of like, hey, like this is like, you know, I went to Tulsa, and I made it to I made it to the quarterfinals, and I lost to, you know who it was who I lost in the quarterfinals? Andrew Alirez.
Oh, really?
Yep. And then
lose
that's one match away from placing, right? So then I go to the blood round. Who do I have in the blood round? Bo Bartlett. And this is in the 4th grade.
Oh my god.
This is in the 4th grade. So yeah. But like, it's what I'm saying. Like, it's totally full circle. Like, the wrestling community is so small.
Yeah.
And there's such a really like tiny contingency of guys who, like, you know, first of all, like, battle through the adversity of doing it for so many years, because it's just such a tough thing to do for that long.
Yep.
Then also the guys that are like, you know, that are kind of hungry to be at that next level.
Yeah. And
to like continue to work. But it's funny, like Liam, the same people that you're seeing right now are the same people that you're going to be seeing in college.
Yeah.
You know, and I bet you that's going to be the same. Dude, I'm telling you. And you're going to laugh about it one day too.
So obviously you wrestled like Bo Bartlett and Alirez, who you lost to, but is there anyone who, not a national champ now, but like maybe an All-American that you wrestled when you were younger, even in high school, and now they're placing at NCAAs or they're winning it, and you're like, holy.
Yeah, guys you didn't expect, like, like, hey, man, I beat him. He's come a long way, kind of thing.
Yeah, you know,
Stumper.
It's hard for me to say, because to be honest with you, like a lot of these guys that won, like honestly, we're having that success at like a super young age, like the Roman Bravo Youngs, and like you know, I mean, Vito was beating Suriano in high school. I mean, It's like, you know, they were always really that great. They were always really, really good. I don't know much about Nino Bonacorsi. I would say maybe him, because he lost to my teammate Travis Stefanik in the state finals. I think Travis' junior or senior year. So, and you know, like, you know, to not go from not winning a state championship to winning a national championship, that's incredibly difficult. So
right.
You know, like it's hard. Like Aaron Brooks, Carter Starachi, you know, Austin O'Connor, you know, too. Like, these are all guys that were like phenomenal wrestlers, like all throughout. Yeah, you know, I didn't really know many of them in high school or in middle school, but it seems like they were like at that level. Yeah, all throughout.
Funny,
so it's tough to say.
Right.
Funny fact: Robert Lee is pretty good friends with the
Bonacorsis.
Yeah, he's they would always, because he was cutting weight a lot.
Yeah,
Or, no, he was 141 wrestling 149 at Pitt.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of room to makeup.
Yeah.
So he'd always go out to eat with them and hit up the local spots they didn't know. Yeah, and he was so big, so they'd always eat a bunch of food. He was telling me that a while ago.
We got a friend of ours that's from the Fox Valley here who went to Pitt. He was there for a little while. He got an injury. Robert Lee wrestled at Pitt for a little bit. He was, and I was curious, because when you brought up Bonacorsi, that's kind of who I was thinking of, because watching him in the past couple of years and coming out of that area, like, I've been kind of pushing for Nito for a while, for a long time. He's been fun to watch. He's a funny guy. He's a likable guy, and just kind of watching him kind of make his way through. But we're not talking about Nino. We're talking about Pat Glory today. So anyways, Pat, what I think is, now I think it's incredible that, number one, you had the level that you had around you, right? You had all those guys around, not just in New Jersey, but just in that tri-state area, New York and Pennsylvania, all that stuff. But when it comes down to it, I mean, your parents were probably a big support system, I would assume, right? Because now you have siblings, right?
I do. I have 2 younger siblings. I have a younger sister, Caitlin, who is a freshman at Wisconsin right now.
Hey,
she's doing pre-med.
Wow.
So she's the nerd of the family. Like makes me look dumb, like fully.
Cool.
And then my little brother Connor is at 7th grade at my alma mater high school.
Nice.
Del Barton.
Del Barton, yeah.
Yeah. So he's at Del Barton right now. He's doing really well. He was out there in Tulsa.
Oh, really?
So
nice.
He was Matt's side, and that was great for him to be around that. So he's already telling the high school coach, Coach Stoll, that he's got a national championship trophy on the way. So we'll see.
That's good. Hey, like you said, you gotta speak it, man. You gotta speak it out and believe it.
I'm excited. I'm excited to be able to work with him, because I feel like I've sacrificed a lot of time and effort, like being down at campus and not being home. And so now that things are kind of slowing down competitively, I'm excited to be able to kind of get around him and help him succeed.
That's cool.
Is he kind of like weight wise going on the same track as you, or is he a little bigger? Is he gonna be in the bigger weights, or?
Yeah, he's tall. He's like almost as tall as me, as a 7th grader, and I would say he's probably going to be a little bit bigger than me.
Yeah.
It all depends, right? I mean, so
right.
My sister, for example, is 5'10".
Yep, that's me.
And I'm 5'6", wearing high heels. So it's tough to say, but I think if he continues to grow this way, he'll be in like the middle weights, middle to upper weights. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that would be great. Yeah.
So as far as coming up, I mean, with the support system, with your parents having siblings, was that kind of crazy around the house? I mean, with a sister that's close to your age, or is she how much younger?
Yeah, she's so there's 4 years in between me and my sister, and then 4 years in between my sister and my brother.
Okay.
So
right on.
Me and my brother are not about 9 years apart.
Yeah.
Okay. eight and change, and then my sister and I are right around 4.
So did your parents divide and conquer with a lot of things, or was it a whole family thing when it came to wrestling and what you guys had going on?
I would say, so I can walk you a little bit down memory lane.
Yeah.
So my grandfather owned a trucking business called Glory Transportation.
Okay.
And so my dad and my dad's siblings, my dad's 3 other brothers, and my grandmother, and my grandfather passed away in 2001.
Okay.
So before I even
You're breaking up. You're slowed way down, bud. I think we
know him. What I remember of Glory Transportation, and it was my grandma at the helm.
We lost
you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you now.
You lost your shirt.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Right back at you. But what I remember of Glory Transportation was my grandma at the helm, my dad and my dad's brothers helping her out, and then kind of like my mom was like doing her thing. She was working in the city.
Yep.
And then in 2008, obviously, the stock market crashes, right? Like, a lot of corporate companies go under, including Glory Transportation. But at that time, my mom, she was working at Bear Stearns.
Oh,
so one of the companies that went under in 2008.
Yeah.
And she actually got scooped up by her boss at Bear Stearns, who got picked up by Merrill Lynch.
Okay. Yep.
Who was then bought out by Bank of America. So she went from Bear Stearns to Bank of America, and now she went to City, so she's really, really high up in the finance world.
Oh, dang, yeah.
And so basically she kind of like was the reason that my dad was able to at that point retire.
Gotcha.
So he kind of, in 2008, I was 8 years old. They kind of sold the company.
Mm-hmm.
My mom continued to work in the city while my dad basically, trekked me around,
Nice. Okay.
the country and brought me to practices and brought me to this and that.
Yeah.
That being said, my sister did make a lot of sacrifices. At that time, she was 4 years old, but as she got older, as I got older, right, she's getting into like the, she's like 10 or so, and I'm 14, right, as I'm getting into high school.
Yep.
I would say it actually worked out pretty well, because that was like right when she was starting to get involved in like club soccer and club this and club that. But that was right as I was getting into high school. And when I got into high school, then I was kind of like separated from my parents. Like my coaches like didn't want me to like have my parents involved at all. They were like, this is your life. Like, this is you. Like, you got to take control. This is not your parents.
Interesting.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and like we had upperclassmen that lived around me that could drive me to and from practice and like, do all that stuff. So they were great. And, kind of freed up my parents to kind of, focus their efforts elsewhere.
Yeah. Do you think that helped or like hurt you almost a little, or was it
to have that separation?
Oh, big time helped me.
Sure.
At that point, I had a severe hatred for my father, because I felt like he was. Yeah. Oh my God. It was to the point where I like wasn't really talking to him. Like,
sure.
For multiple reasons, there was stuff outside wrestling that was happening, and like, and that's the way that life goes. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, I dealt with that by kind of turning wrestling into my own thing. Like, nice. It was almost like, oh, I'm going to do this in spite of him. You know what I mean? Almost like I'm going to do it because, I totally took ownership. And I was like, whether he believes in me or not, I'm going to go do it to prove it to myself, nice. And nobody else.
Nice. Yeah.
And so, like that it's short answer to your question. It definitely helped me for sure. Yeah. So, and, I turned to my coaches, leaned to my coaches and my teammates really to kind of believe in me and help me get there.
Well, and just kind of goes to, I coached him. I mean, since he was 4, 5, and just coming up, and I wasn't a coach. Like I played soccer. So soccer was my gig, and I quit wrestling, I think my junior year of high school. So I didn't have the understanding and the level that, especially like you guys are at, and especially where he got to finally, it was beyond my realm. So I actually was okay with it. Now, but you had a dad that was in it. So that kind of.
But he stunk.
Yeah, right.
He stunk at wrestling. He was not a good wrestler. He wasn't a good wrestler. And that's honestly what I love my dad. I love my dad, and I give him so much credit for everything.
Hell yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Yeah. And I nudge him. I'm like, hey, listen, like you're gonna have to deal with me talking a little bit bad about you.
Yeah.
We went through that. That's the reality of what happened.
It is.
I'm gonna tell the story how it truly happened.
It's what made you.
But it's funny because, I always said to him, like, what do you know, Dad?
Yeah.
Like, what do you know? You don't know anything.
Right. I didn't either.
You couldn't even win the county tournament.
Nope.
But you're going to tell me that I'm doing things wrong. Right. And that's the reality of it. We had a little bit of friction. We had a little bit of button heads.
Yeah.
But I felt like I could counteract whatever he was saying. If he got mad at me, or if I had a bad practice, or, whatever, if I lost the match or something.
Yeah.
I would say, hey, well, at least these guys are telling me I'm doing something right, who actually know what they're talking about.
Yep.
And so that's why it was easy, because I was around really high level coaches where I could just be like, hey, well, these guys are telling me you're wrong. So I'm going to listen to them, not you.
And that's a huge advantage. That's a huge advantage. Like I said, you had intelligent coaches that if I had that, like I played semi-professional soccer. So knowing a high level kind of athlete, if I had that, I'd be like, take them. Get, here you go kind of thing.
That's what my dad said too. Yeah. He was actually ecstatic. He was like, I think he kind of was finally, I think freshman, sophomore year of high school was tough because it was still like a new thing for him. But like after the first year, after my freshman year, he kind of enjoyed just like being able to watch and like appreciate it.
Yep.
And he didn't have to be so stressed out about like getting me to that level because it wasn't his job anymore.
Correct. And that's where I am now.
That's what you were in my 6th grade year. Cause I was kind of, I was kind of starting to like move on from like trying to win conference and stuff, and I had just won state the year before, and I was starting to listen to my coaches more, and I could kind of start to see my dad starting to like smile more at practices. And I was like, what?
It takes the stress off you guys, and like there is totally a trade off between like you have to push because like I would not have gone to practice when I didn't want to.
Yeah,
you know, I give a lot of credit to my dad for kind of playing devil's advocate, right, and kind of forcing me to go to practices when I really feel like I needed to, because it made it easier for me. Like then those things that I needed to fix, you know, I had already fixed because I was going to these practices, right, and I didn't have to like fix old bad habits in high school. You know, I could just focus on learning new things and adding to my repertoire as opposed to like, you know, getting to the fundamentals. I was already, you know, pretty solid in. Right by the time that I got to high school because of those extra practices, going to extra tournaments, doing extra stuff that I didn't really want to do. So
exactly.
That's the trade-off. You know, and you have to time it right because, like, again, if he kept pushing me when I didn't really feel like I needed to be pushed anymore, and I could just, you know, listen to my coaches, like, then it would be a little bit of a different situation probably between us.
For sure.
But he actually did a good job kind of, you know, stepping on the brakes when he needed to.
And that was kind of what we did too. I wound up kind of pushing him a little more when he was little, and then I kind of realized that number one, I don't want my kid telling me that. I don't want him saying, well, you didn't do this, because I know I didn't do it. Thank you very much. But I kind of realized at a certain level too, it's like, hey, you know what? Because now after a while, you're going to be just battling coaches. Because if you don't know, and then the coach actually knows, and he's telling your kid, and you're like, no, don't, you're just screwing your kid up. So parents, take a note. Be hard for a little bit, but then just understand when you're not in it.
With your, like, what? So your freshman year, were you 106 or whatever the lowest weight class?
106.
Okay, so did you?
My freshman year.
Because we have a freshman. Nolan Mickey, who's like 95 pounds, wrestling 106. Were you that kind of kid, or were you
106?
Or were you 106?
You know, I wasn't that light, but I was pretty light. I would say I stepped on the scale for certifications my freshman year at 108.
Okay.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
And I'm drinking a Mountain Dew on the scale. I was like, Coach, I don't want to certify. He's like, dude, you weighed in 3 pounds over. Like, you're fine. You know what I mean? Freaking on the scale. What are you worried? You know, like I was a little freshman who didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Then I started to get bigger throughout the season. So probably by the end of the season, I was about 115.
Okay.
Coming down to 108.
Nice.
So I definitely grew throughout the season that year.
Were you big into like weightlifting? Were you kind of like, or were you just wanting to wrestle?
Yeah, I would say like I was into weight training.
Okay.
I had a lifting coach who was very much against like Olympic style like lifting.
Yeah.
He was more so of like a strength endurance type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we would be doing a lot of like sandbag stuff and like farmer's carries and like grip strength and like pull-ups and like, you know, like a lot of stuff like that you like. And like, don't get me wrong, like we would do some machines, but like I wouldn't be like deadlifting anything. Maybe like a hex bar deadlift.
Yeah.
But like not like no cleans, no barbell bench press, like mostly like dumbbell bench press.
We do
stuff like that, like curls. So yeah, I don't know. Like I attribute a lot of my strength,
a lot of free weight
to those years. Yeah, a lot of free weight stuff. Like
right on.
And it was great. Like I mean, I definitely felt like my strength is a huge advantage for me. So
nice.
Did you do a lot of plyometrics then? Or was it
not so much plyometrics, I would say, but more so. Yeah, I mean, like some. But I guess it wasn't like one day we're gonna do plyometrics this week. It was just kind of like whatever
threw it in there.
The lifting coach, you would like throw some stuff in there. Exactly.
So as you kind of got through the youth piece and a little bit of the middle school, as far as what was the farthest tournament you guys went to? Did you stay on the East Coast, or did you guys wind up? You said you went to Reno, or not Reno? You went to Tulsa, national stuff like that. So he went, and you were talking about kind of like the dual versus like individual. Did you feed off of the dual experience more than the individual?
Yeah, I think it's like it's more matches.
Yeah.
For the most part, I mean, maybe even amount of matches.
Yeah.
But I also feel like, it was fun. It was more fun, right? You're like around a team of teammates, right? Like there was an enjoyment piece that I feel like is maybe taken away when it's all individual.
Yeah.
At a young age, right? You want to enjoy it too as a kid.
Correct.
So I was like, and it was funny, like the teams that I was on stunk. Like we were awful.
Yeah.
Right. We would go, like, we would never make it out of like the pool or anything, but like, it was fun. Like the connections that I have with the guys that I was on those dual meet teams with, I'll have forever. Right. And I still, Quinn Kinner, I don't know if you know who Quinn Kinner is, but he's a rider wrestler.
Yep.
Quinn Kinner was like on my first ever dual meet team.
Nice.
His father ran a team called Team TNT.
Oh,
and they had an open spot. They had an open spot at my weight class, and like my dad was like, "Hey, this team picked you up, so this is who you're wrestling for."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, they're from New Jersey. That seems fine."
It's all right. Yeah.
And then we had a great experience. Billy Janzer was another guy on that team.
Yep.
It's just like funny. It's just like so cool. Like
Yeah.
That's what I feel like made it. I took some losses here and there, but
Sure.
it was still like I feel like I learned more from those experiences
Always.
than I maybe would have if I was so nervous about losing, in an individual tournament that I couldn't wrestle in the same way.
Sure. So now so we'll start diving into high school a little bit more here. Your freshman year, you said you're at 108. I think you guys have for the weight class out there. What were you anticipating as far as getting into high school? Was there, obviously everybody wants to be a state champion. So that's obviously one of the goals, but where were you in a frame of mind of going into your high school seasons in general? Just your, maybe your freshman year, were you nervous? Was it something that you were prepared for? Cause again, we talk about the level of guys that are out there. New Jersey state championships aren't easy either.
No, yeah. In 8th grade, I lost to Chris Cannon in the state finals. I got teched. I got teched.
Yeah.
So, I was nervous, man. I was like, third time taking second that year.
Yeah.
So in the back of my head, I'm like, man, like maybe I'm cursed or something, right? Like what's going on? Like, so in that match too, I was winning against Cannon, and then I wound up like getting turned a bunch of times and like, whatever, like I wound up getting teched because of like back points and stuff.
Yeah.
And wound up getting beaten up pretty good. But yeah, so I think going into high school, there was always this like little voice in the back of my head saying like, hey, like, you're good, but are you that good?
Right.
You know, like,
well, you're a four-time finalist. You
four-time finalist.
Yeah, you did pretty good, man.
But the first 2 years were tough. Like, I won the district. I won the region. I took 4th of the BCDs.
Yep.
I took 2nd of the Powerade. I had a pretty good year. And like my county tournament, there was 3 guys all on my side of the bracket that placed in the state tournament that year.
Oh, really?
Just in my county tournament. So like, it was a very competitive area that I was in. So my district, I wrestled the kid that I would wrestle in the state finals. In the finals. Regions wrestled the kid that I would wrestle in the state finals in the finals. And then, so I had wrestled, who's my buddy now, Gerard Angelo.
Yeah.
Who I literally grew up wrestling with my whole life. But like, that's the way it goes, right? You gotta, once you get out on that mat, you gotta compete and find a way to win.
Doesn't matter what
I
their dress is.
seven times that year.
Oh, geez.
And I beat him 5 times. And that was just in the regular season. Like that was without preseason, without postseason. And of course, one of those 2 losses was in the state finals, and the other one was for 3rd, 4th in the Beast.
Wow!
So,
man,
yeah, it's like crazy situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had a great game plan. They executed it. They knew exactly what I was going to do.
Yeah.
We didn't really have a game plan. We were like, hey, we beat this guy 5 times already. We'll probably be all right. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Go out there and wrestle. And they did a great job, and that's what it took, and they found a way to slow me down and found a way to win. So, it's like, okay, that stunk, right? I mean, you work so hard, you feel like you almost earn a state championship, but it doesn't happen for you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's your freshman year, right? You have 3 more years.
Moving on.
We're okay. We're gonna go right back to work. We did it. We started doing freestyle. We went to the cadet duels and did all that stuff. And so then going into sophomore year was a Super 32, and in the finals I have Sebastian Rivera, who was at the weight class up the year before, who stayed down at 113 for Super 32, but everyone kind of was saying that his intentions were to go up to 120 for the season, and that that he wasn't going to be around for much longer. It was just he wanted to win Super 32, so he stayed at 13. So I lost to him. He beat me up pretty good in the finals of Super 32. I can't lie. Yeah. And then moved on to the regular season, and I won my first beast title.
Yep. I remember that
at 113. And then had an undefeated season going into that final, and at that point, so about halfway through the year was when Rivera announced that he was coming back down to 13. He was up at 20 for probably half the season, and then came back down. And you guys are gonna get a crack out of this. The font, we shake hands, we start wrestling. Rivera shoots, and I hit him in a Jonesy tilt. I hit him in like a shin wizard tilt.
Oh yeah.
And I put him on his back, so it was 4-0 at the end of the first.
Yeah.
And so I was like, but from then there, I remember just like almost blacking out. Like
really?
I got so nervous about losing, and being up and losing. Like my mind was anywhere but on that mat.
Yeah.
Like it was literally like in the clouds.
Oh shit.
And I remember that third period. It was still, I think it was still 4-0 or something. I think I might have got ridden out in the second period, which is crazy.
Really?
And then so he gets out and then takes me down, and then gets out and takes me down, and puts me right to my back, and I wound up getting pinned with like 1 second left.
Wow.
So,
no.
It was like a crazy come from behind win for him, and devastating.
Totally.
My coaches had to like pick me up off the mat and like carry me off the mat. I like couldn't stand up. I was like so distraught from like everything that happened.
Yeah. Man.
And so then it was like, okay, like something has to change here. Like, I can't just expect to just like go back into this next year and everything's going to work out for me.
Yeah.
So I kind of started honing in on like the mental part of wrestling.
Sure.
And like, I started seeing a psychologist. I started like actively working on my preparation mentally leading into matches, and, what I'm thinking about, how to take your mind off of like the subjective, like what ifs.
Yeah.
And what have you, that like your mind naturally pulls you into those, right? Like
totally. Yeah.
Your nerves can control you unless you know how to kind of deal with them.
Yep.
And I had a major issue. I had a major mental issue. It was totally not technical, totally not physical.
Yep.
And I attributed it 100% to mental. And what my psychologist told me was that like there's an objective truth to your capabilities, right? What's the truth of the matter? Every single match that you've wrestled, you've been just as good, if not better, technically and physically than those guys, right? And that's the truth. No one can really argue that anything else, right?
Yep. Correct.
What's the truth? The truth is you have thought about like the negative externalities that could possibly come from you losing, right? Like you've only put those negative thoughts in your head. You haven't really ever thought like positively. And when you have thought positively, they've been overshadowed by the negatives, right?
Yep.
So he said to me, the only thing that you should be thinking about is the truth and start thinking technically. Like if you can like channel your nerves into thinking about like execution.
Yep.
Not about like the post match and like the things that are out of your control.
Yep.
You're gonna be producing at 80 to 100% of your your capacity and what you're capable of.
Nice.
And he said that above 50 is more than most people, can put out there. Right. He's like, if you can get up into the 80 range, he's like, you're going to be, a really dangerous guy.
Yeah.
And he didn't know anything about wrestling. He's a golf guy. He's totally I was like the first wrestling guy he's ever had. It wasn't like he was like producing wrestlers left and right.
Yeah.
But like, these principles, they hold true. I mean, it's the same thing with a golfer right before he takes a shot.
Yep.
He could be thinking about, what if I shank this?
Yep.
Or what if this doesn't go, what if this goes in the water?
That's right.
Right. He's got to focus on the technique. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like everything that he wants to do in that swing to go properly to then have the result be something that, happens because of the execution part.
Yep. Right on.
It really helped me. It kind of like shape that mental part.
So coming into your junior year, this was a big year for you then. I think you probably put a little more on yourself than probably usual because you know what you're capable of already. Just a little blackout session you had with the year before, but now you refocus yourself. You've been talking to a psychologist, working on the mental part. Where are you? You start the season out probably strong, just like you do every other year. So now you're starting to get closer to the tournament side of the postseason here. So how are you feeling going into the postseason then?
I felt confident. I didn't really know how the state tournament was going to play out. I didn't really have much competition up until the state tournament.
Yep.
I was bonusing my way through the counties, through the districts and regions.
Yep.
And so it was just a matter of who I was going to have in the, you know what I mean? Like you want to take it every match at a time once you get to the state tournament. But I got a tech in the semifinals against Joe Heilman, who's he's a NCAA qualifier. Joe Heilman's a stud, right? And I teched him, right? Like, so I felt really, really good going into the final. And in the finals, I wrestled a guy who Jojo Aragona, who I wrestled all throughout growing up and stuff. He was one of like the original guys I wrestled with at Iron Horse when we were like probably fourth grade or something.
Yep.
And so we had, we knew each other. We had a lot of respect for each other.
Yeah.
And, I didn't really open up much. I didn't really score a lot of points.
Yeah.
But, I got my one takedown, I got my escape, and, I didn't really make any mistakes.
Yeah.
So, and then you wound up being like 3-0. But, it was like hey, like, this is going to be a weird match. Like, you're still kind of not off the train yet, so I think it was like a good, like, hey, like, you finally did it, but there's still more to come. Like, it wasn't your best performance. You know what I mean? So I was still a little critical of myself because I knew I could have probably done a little bit better.
So that's
scored more points, etc.
That's where I want to come in with a question then with the mental side that you worked on. Was that a big transition for you then? Because like you said, you got your takedown, you got your escape, but it almost sounds like after that, I mean, was that at the end of the match or was that right away? And you're like, were you just kind of holding on a little bit and knowing that I got this, but I just need to stay in control? Were you a little more in control mentally during that match on that one?
I definitely think that I came out more of like the way that I came out in the prior matches.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like those last two finals, it was really like a different me out on the mat.
Sure. Yeah.
Where I kind of felt like I was like conscious. I was calculated. Like I was there. I was like in the match.
Yeah. Yeah.
More so than like being kind of like lost in the atmosphere maybe, or like lost in like the crowd or what have you.
Yep.
I feel like I was able to kind of wrestle through that pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what I mean? Like sometimes, it's not going to be a high scoring match and you got to find a way to sneak, close ones out.
There's nothing wrong. A W is a W, but it just always kind of interested to see where your mental side was, as far as kind of, you put that work in for it and it definitely paid off.
Yeah. I definitely think I was in a different headspace.
That's cool.
Than previous years. Totally.
Yeah. So now your senior year, I mean, was it kind of an expected thing? Cause you're two-time state champ in New Jersey, right?
Yeah. So So going into my senior year, I was just starting to kind of get my name out there in terms of like being, one of the top guys in my weight in the country.
Yep.
I think I was ranked third going into my senior year.
Yep.
And so it was Jordan Decatur was number 1.
Yes.
And Gavin Teasdale was number 2.
Yep.
And so, who's number 1? Bids came out, and it's Decatur versus Teasdale, and it's my last run, so I'm like a little disappointed. And I'm like, I always wanted to do that.
Yep,
it was something I always wanted to be a part of. I saw like Suriano fix live, like at Who's Number 1, like just like some of the craziest matches I've ever seen.
Yep,
number 1 versus number 2 was so cool. Like I just thought, I thought that it was just the flow wrestling was so cool. I thought Who's Number 1 was so cool. I thought everything about it was awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
And so I got a call maybe mid-October. I think maybe mid-September, and it was like early October that Who's Number 1 was couple weeks away from Who's Number 1.
Yeah.
And Willie, I'll never forget Willie Saylor. I'm like, I think I just came from practice. I'm like about to shower, and he's like, hey, like, this is Pat Lorraine. I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, Jordan Decatur just got, pulled out. He's injured for Who's Number 1. Like, would you want in?
Yeah.
And I was like, are you messing with me? He's like, no, I'm not messing with you. Like, you want to wrestle or no? And I was like, yeah, I want to wrestle. I was like, thank you. I was like, thank you so much. Like, thank you. And I just remember being so ecstatic. And I was like, I'm going to go get this thing. Like I wanted to win so bad. And so kind of just like started, really training hard. It was kind of like preseason where I was like somewhere between like starting to really hit the ground, but we were so, a few weeks away from competition.
Yep.
But, once I got that nod, I really kind of, turned on another gear and went out to go beat Gavin Teasdale, who I had never beaten in, 3 past, matches between us.
Yep.
So I knew it was going to be tough, but like, I was working with Coach Buxton and Mario Mason, and we were getting a really, really good game plan going.
Yeah.
So we had a great game plan and we executed on it, and want to taking the match from Teasdale, and we took over that number 1 spot. It wasn't like, oh, well, like the number 1 guy wasn't there. It was like, no, like you're number 1 now. So,
yeah, right.
So I got that ranking, and then
that's cool.
Kind of finished my senior year undefeated, and felt really good going into college, and was super excited about kind of the next level.
How was the college recruiting process for you? We talked to a couple guys now, a couple local guys, and I talked to a couple other national guys about, some guys are getting phone calls right away. Some guys aren't, and some guys are getting looks that they want, and some guys are getting looks, but they're not the looks that they want. So how's that process for you going through? Because obviously you stayed close to home, but who's throwing some sunshine your way?
Yeah, like I actually initially wanted to go to Stanford.
Ooh.
I wanted to get the heck out of New Jersey. I was like, if I'm going to be living around here for so long, I was like, I'm going to go get 4 years of sunshine and palm trees in, right? And like, right. And so there's a couple of reasons why Stanford made sense for me.
Yeah.
I paid $40,000 a year to go to high school.
Wow.
So like
Wow.
that's a right. That's a lot of money to go to high school.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, okay, well, like I'm gonna make the most out of my education, because I sacrificed a lot to value education very highly.
For sure.
And so there's only a small subset of schools really that have that level of academics that I was looking for, and that produced All-Americans and potentially a national champ.
For sure.
Right. That I also wanted. Right. That was also really important to me.
Yep.
So, and another thing about Stanford that was different, because it was basically Stanford in the Ivy Leagues.
Yep.
Stanford has scholarship money.
Correct.
Right. So the Ivy League, they don't have any like athletic aid. It's only financial aid.
Correct.
And I'm blessed to not qualify for that.
Sure.
But I mean, still, right? It's like, it's not like I'm like,
right, rolling
a son of a billionaire who like can afford to freaking pay $80,000 a year, no problem.
Yeah, still gotta make a decision.
I have student loan, and now I have to have, I have student loans out and stuff like that, and like it's
Sweet.
It's a little bit different, but the good thing is, it was like, in hindsight, Joey McKenna was leaving, right?
Yep.
He just kind of, something was up at the Stanford program that he didn't like, and he was a Buxton guy from my area, and like I had a long talk with Coach Buxton, and he was like, "Don't go there.
Yeah,
you're not gonna like it. Like you're just, it's just not gonna be what you're looking for."
It's a wise man.
Like, just, I'm telling you, like he had no stick in the game. He wanted me to go to Lehigh. He was the Lehigh Valley wrestling coach.
Mm-hmm.
The Lehigh Valley RTC.
Yep.
And
sure.
I they were the first ones to offer me.
Okay.
So Lehigh offered me a full ride, and they were like the first ones to even reach out to me. So I knew how badly they wanted me, but I just didn't see myself there. Just couldn't really get behind being a mountain hawk.
Yep.
But still, to this day, like, Pat Santoro comes up and says, like, good job, and like, they're just amazing people. Like, I really love the Lehigh coaches and the coaching staff and everybody associated.
Yeah.
But at that point, like, I already wasn't going to Lehigh, and so like Buxton basically was just trying to do me right, do right by me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was just trying to do what he thought was best for me, and so
the dude's a legend.
I appreciated that, and like, he is,
Yeah.
he really is a legend, and so he's like, basically then it's like back to the drawing board, so it was basically Princeton, Cornell, and Penn. That's the three schools that I took official visits to.
Okay.
So the first one was Cornell, and like, it's hard to not have fun when you're hanging out with Yanni D and Vito and all those freaking studs up there. Mike Gray was the first ever 4-time state champ for my alma mater. Right.
Oh,
he
really?
was literally.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he went to Del Barton.
Okay.
Yeah. Mike Gray. Not a lot of people know that Mike Gray went to Del Barton. So he was my team NJ coach at Fargo a couple years in high school. Like, me and Mike have a lot of connection to each other. Like, there's a lot of history between Mike and I. And so I was like, I want to go to Cornell. I had a buddy whose family, like, had a connection to Cornell. He wound up actually going to Cornell. We would have been classmates.
Yeah.
We would have been business majors together. We would have been in the business school. Like, it would have been a lot of fun. I would have had a roommate, it was great. And so I was kind of like locked into Cornell. I was like, oh, let's go. Yeah. We're going to Cornell. My mom, kind of talked to me, and she's like, hey, everyone has said, like, take your official visits. Like, you don't need, you can commit to Cornell in 2 weeks after you're finished with all of them. Like, just take the last two, and like, then like you'll feel more comfortable in your decision. Yep. Okay. No rush. It is what it is. It's fine. Yep. And then I went to UPenn, and UPenn at the time. So this is like Roger Rayna's first year, and like, it's like, what, is this guy like really the coach for me? Right. It's like a little bit of an older coach. And I didn't really know what the situation with the RTC was going to be. And like, I don't know, like, I didn't really vibe with the team as much as I maybe would have expected to. And I had connections there too. Like, one of the kids I grew up with, AJ Vindici, he was a Wharton UPenn wrestler. Okay. From Randolph, like, I'm best family friends with like his family and stuff. Like, again, another really close connection to a school where I felt like maybe I could have gone. So Penn wasn't out of the question, but I was kind of like, maybe not Penn. I just kind of wasn't really super into Penn.
Didn't feel warm.
And then I got to Princeton, and Princeton was like basically Del Barton 2.0. I had like a couple of my teammates that were on the team currently.
Really?
Ty Gacy was the starting 125 pounder at the time, who was going to go up to 33. And like, I would have been wrestling with him, and he was someone who I really like looked up to in high school. Who was a state champ. There was just a lot of like buzz around the program. Like Koladzic was doing well. Like Brucky was doing well. We had a bunch of NCAA qualifiers, but like, there was still so much room to like, there was so much stuff to be done. Yeah. Yeah. And I remember like being in those recruiting meetings with the coaches, and they had this like trajectory of like where the program was going and like where we were at now. Like, we were kind of like midway through that, like, exponential function, so to speak, where it was like, it was like the top is still far away. And like, what we need is like, we need multiple All-Americans every year. Yep. We need a national champ. and we need like, top 10 recruiting classes consistently. And like, then we need a team trophy and then, you know what I mean? At the NCAA tournament, and we need to win an EIWA championship. And like, there's all these like things that like basically were a function of like, like future classes coming in and like doing the next best thing,
matrix,
like doing the thing that had
the matrix together,
winning an Ivy League, dual meet title, right? Like those little things that then kind of add up and come together.
Yep.
But like it was hard. We really, we came in as a freshman class. I think we were like the 15th best recruiting class. Like I think we were like out of all the Division I schools, like we were ranked 15.
Yep.
Or something, which is like not that great. But we had 5 or 6 freshmen in the starting lineup from our freshman year.
I think looking at the progression of where they were before that to that, I think that's the measurement for sure to take, because I think there's a little gap in between, because you didn't hear about Princeton a ton really until you heard, like Kolodzic and those guys when they hit the scene, as far as I remember.
Right, exactly.
Because like I said, I kind of shut off from wrestling for a little while, but I remember once coming back on and watching things and seeing the NCAAs and I was seeing a Princeton singlet, and I'm like, huh? Where's these guys have a wrestling program? But then watching them the next year, there was another one. Then you got, it just started to add up. So sounds like that matrix you guys are talking about was starting to kind of, build itself. So that's interesting. So it's interesting to see when you're coming into that. And like you said, it kind of reminded you of high school. It was something that you felt comfortable with. So when you get into that room, when you start practicing and getting into that room, did it feel comfortable once you started working with the guys?
Yeah, I literally got to work like right after I graduated my senior year of high school, and like was going down for RTC practice in the summer.
Yeah.
Dubuque and I were doing like private lessons and stuff.
Okay.
Like I really felt like a collegiate wrestler like right out of high school.
Yeah.
And I knew that we had a lot of work to do.
Yep.
And like that, there was going to be certain things that I, was not good at relative to what college guys were doing. So, I feel like we kind of went to work right away and hit the mats hard. And I think that like I was blessed that like when we stepped on campus, like I became best friends with my classmates like instantly. Like literally instantly. Like we all could tell that we were super motivated. Like we all could tell that like we saw something in each other. Like there was just like kind of like an unspoken like, hey, like we are really freaking good at wrestling, and like we're also super smart, and we're gonna do schoolwork together. We're gonna go eat together.
Yep.
We're gonna hang out together. We're gonna wrestle hard in the room and go to lift and do everything together. Right? Like it was literally like we're on the same exact trajectory. No one was off on doing their own thing. Everyone was kind of in like this tight knit,
nice,
motivated group.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna lie to you, like that really could not be said about the rest of the guys. Like, there was only like maybe 6 or 7 other guys on the rest of the team that were that motivated. Right.
Yep.
So we kind of really set the standard, and like kind of almost like, in my opinion, like woke the upperclassmen up and was like, hey, like, we're a good wrestling team. You know what I mean? Like we're good. Like let's go do something special.
Yeah.
And we had a great year. We took second in the Ivy. Like we were pretty close to Cornell. At that point, the gap was pretty wide, but we handled every other Ivy League team pretty well. And
so were you? Did you redshirt your freshman year?
No, I came in right away. I was 7 years old. I was 18 years old at the my first NCAA tournament.
Wow. Okay. So now that's the question I kind of want to get to now is when you come from high school into college, what was that transition like? Because you always hear about, in high school, you can get in a leg easy and take a guy down. But once you get into college, you may be able to get in that leg, but you better work on finishing because you ain't finishing right away. Was that like that for you?
I honestly was pretty even with these guys on my feet. Like,
all right.
Obviously like certain things like finishing and like scrambling and like certain things, but I was pretty even with these guys on our feet.
Okay.
And on top, could ride guys. I could ride guys from the get go, and like that was always a huge, asset for me was being able to ride guys. And in high school, I could ride, but like, you do all that work to ride somebody, you don't really get any points from it unless you turn somebody.
Right. That's right.
And you get a free point by riding a guy for a minute in college. It was great.
Yeah.
You get 4 back points, right? Come on, like you can't beat that.
You can't.
I hold his back for 4 seconds. You give me 4 points. Like,
yeah.
I had to hold it back for 5. Only 3 points in high school. You know what I mean? That's great.
Yeah, right.
So that part was cool. Then I also had the reverse side of that was that bottom. Bottom was a major issue for me. I lost to Piccinini 3 times that year. Lost to Spencer Lee twice.
Yeah.
Lost to Rivera. I lose to Rivera because I got turned, but like, there, for most of the matches I lost, I got turned.
Okay.
So,
right on.
That was about, I think from freshman to sophomore year, that was a big focus area. It was bottom. And we made a big jump. I think from freshman to sophomore year, like an exponential jump in my opinion. Like I was a whole different wrestler that sophomore year.
Right on. So what was the most memorable moment of your freshman year?
I think turning Spencer Lee, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. I
was down 12-0 in the Midland semifinals in the first period, and the final score was 12-6.
Yeah.
So I got a set of 4 bad points and 2 or 3 stall calls.
Nice.
12-6. But again, like I was down 12-0, so I kind of put myself in a hole that I couldn't really crawl out of.
Well, let's talk about who you're wrestling though too. I mean, that was kind of freshman year. That's a big deal. To me, is just coming out. Just me making it to like a second place at a youth tournament was huge. That's ginormous, dude. Turning a guy like that. I mean, then that tells you right there too. You're also changing levels. You're coming along. Because I'll tell you this much right now. Just this year, there weren't, like, I heard a lot of people just in our area alone that were not picking Lee if he made it to the finals. So just knowing that and then seeing the progression that you made as you've gone along in these last couple of years, that just kind of speaks to that a little more. So you said kind of going into your sophomore year, you made a big jump with being on bottom. How did that pan out going in, through the rest of your sophomore year then?
Well, let's just say that I was undefeated going into the national championships before they were canceled. Right?
Yeah.
I was supposed to wrestle Spencer Lee 2 times that year.
Yep.
But the one time was in the Midlands, and he pulled out of the tournament before the semifinals. And I wound up wrestling Michael DiAugustino in the finals instead of Spencer.
Yep.
And then the other time was in the dual meet. We wrestled Iowa at home, and Spencer didn't come out. I wrestled Aaron Cashman.
Oh yeah.
So
yep.
So it was just two. But then I'm like, going into the tournament, I'm thinking to myself, there's no hiding now.
Nope.
Right. You got to come out and wrestle. And
COVID.
And then the tournament gets canceled, and then COVID hits.
Yeah.
Right. So it kind of stunk. It was like, wow, this is really happening.
Yeah. So what?
It was hard.
You were, and that's another question I never really kind of got into with a couple other college guys. When you're dealing with that situation obviously it's a heartbreak for, anybody because you're missing the tournament, but with seniors around you and the guys that were going to be done that year, what was the atmosphere like in the room when that announcement was made for you guys? I mean, it had to have been, and I haven't been in sports where something like that's happened. So I can't even compare it, especially being at a high level like that. I mean, what was going on in the room when that announcement was made?
Yeah, I remember watching like the when the NBA canceled their season and like the March Madness was canceled.
Yeah.
From my dorm room with my teammates, and we were all just like, "Oh my goodness!"
Yeah.
And the coaches were like, "Hey, hopefully we just get out to." It was it was poised to be at the Minnesota Vikings Stadium, the U.S. Bank Stadium in Minnesota.
Yep.
And we were just like, hopefully we, it was Thursday that it happened.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to fly out the following Tuesday. So it was basically 4 days we had to get through, 5 days.
Yep.
So we were just kind of praying like, hey, maybe if we get out there, they'll figure something out. Maybe there's no fans.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like, just the athletes and everyone, is like wearing a mask or something. Like,
Make it happen.
We didn't really know. And then it was just like, once everything else got canceled, we were kind of pessimistic about our chances about, about getting out there. But so basically what happened was Princeton made an announcement that everyone needed to leave campus. And then that was it. Like we were basically, it was from like I actually had a black eye because I like worked out Thursday morning to get weight off.
Yeah.
And then by Thursday afternoon, everyone was like, we were literally off campus. Like I was back home Friday morning.
Oh man. God.
Isn't that crazy?
That's
literally
crazy.
Like less than 24 hours. I went from like preparing for a national championship to being at home eating, corned beef and cabbage for St. Patty's Day.
Kicked out of campus.
In like one of the most depressed St. Patty's days ever in my life.
Yeah, ever, because it's pretty fun out there from what I hear.
Yeah. So, usually, right? Yeah.
So what happened with? So you go into it's your junior year then, right? That essentially that you get to come back to is your junior year. So how did that pan out? Having all of that, what was kind of the thought in the room? We just had COVID. We had this tournament stripped away from us. What's the goal in the room your junior year going into that?
So we actually had to take another year off after that because the Ivy League that following year. So that happens. That's in March. So there's only a couple more months left in the year.
Yeah.
And then the following year, it's like we're going into August where school's about to start up again.
Yep.
And we hadn't heard anything from the Ivy League from Princeton about like whether we're going to have athletics, whether like we're going to have school, what was going to happen.
Jesus. And
then they wound up announcing like late August that they were not supporting athletics that year. And that, basically none of the classes were going to be on campus. They'd be all virtual.
Yeah.
And, basically we, all the athletes had to make the decision like, hey, do we want to go back to school virtually and then not be able to use our last year of eligibility at Princeton? We would have to go transfer to somewhere else. Or do we want to take a gap year and then try to just get through this mess and come back and then be able to just finish our careers at Princeton?
Yeah.
And so we all decided to do that. We were all like, we're going to find a place to live together off campus in Princeton. We're going to find a way to train.
Okay.
That's not through the Princeton facilities. Like we had to basically use a club wrestling room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And lift. We were lifting at Planet Fitness, like in like Retro Fitness, a whole wrestling team.
Yeah.
Right. It's like we found a way. We found a way to get the work done.
That's cool.
And that was it. It was very makeshift. It was very rinky dink, but like, hey, we had something to train for at least because the U.S. Open was happening. So we had U23s.
Yeah.
So that's basically what our national championship was. And, we wound up making a world team and we wrestled in Serbia.
Nice.
Later that year. So like going now this is November of my actual junior year.
Yep.
Right. We're now COVID's through. Now we're back to campus. Right. And then I was able to go out to Serbia in November, wrestle out there, and then come back and start up the regular season, which was super cool.
Nice. So it's interesting that you guys found a way, and I think that was kind of the mantra for a lot of guys, especially in the sport, that you saw guys training out in parks and, out in the grass. They were wrestling anywhere they could. I mean, I saw guys that had, and I think it was out, I think it was out by you guys. They rented those tents and they put mats underneath those big white tents and stuff, and they were practicing out there. So you guys finding a way is, especially as a team, is pretty remarkable to be able to pull together like that. So that's pretty cool. It's good to see that you guys had the wherewithal too, to kind of, like you said, you stayed tight, you stayed together, and made that decision together. So that's pretty cool. So
no doubt.
So going into that season now, your regular season, you guys have been through a lot. You've been overseas. You've done, you kept yourselves busy and in shape. Did you guys feel a little more prepared, having done the things that you did have to do just to kind of stay in the game? Did you guys feel a little more prepared?
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely 1 year veteran, right? We're 1 year older, 1 year more mature.
Yep.
But we're also 1 year, over basically almost 2 years without wrestling a folk style match.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Like competing in the NCAA. So that was a little bit weird. I think, the first open tournament, like everyone was kind of like shaking the cobwebs off a little bit, but then, you get back into the zone, you get back into the rhythm of the season, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, like I've been here before, so, but yeah, no, I definitely think that, it was good to be back to like competing. 'Cause it was tough, like watching that NCAA, like the COVID year NCAA tournament where like, you know, some people were competing, but like others weren't. And like, we were sitting there watching TV, like, you know, why is no one talking about us and we're not there? Like, you know, it's like we're always kind of like a little rubbed the wrong way about that. But we had another opportunity and that was it. We just came back and tried to make the most of it.
Right on. So going into postseason, we'll talk about postseason then because we want to get into your senior. I hope your girlfriend's not going to run out of gas, is she?
No, we're parked. She's right here. She's a trooper. She's the best.
She is a trooper. Thank you again. So with that being said, going into, you know, in that postseason, how were you guys, what was the mental side? Just trying to, cause like you said, you guys hadn't wrestled folk style. I mean, obviously you got back on the bike again, but postseason, it's a little different. Did you feel like it was going to be a little more of a struggle that year?
Yeah, no, I think it was more excitement than being worried about it.
Okay.
You know, I think it was like, we hadn't been there in like 2 years. So, you know, it's like we hadn't been there in 2 years.
Yep.
Everyone was just kind of nipping at the bud to get back out there and like compete in that environment again.
Yep.
There's nothing like the NCAA tournament. You know, you can wrestle a million dual meets. You can wrestle on a million conference tournaments.
Yep.
There's nothing like the NCAA tournament. Yeah. Nothing. Midlands, right? Midlands or scuffle or whatever you wrestle in. Nothing is like the NCAA tournament. And I think that they were just like, for me at least, I know that the same thing is for, you know, my teammates too.
Yep.
We were just hyped. I think it was just hype. Everyone was just like so hyped to be out there and be around, you know, so many wrestling fans and it just was surreal. Like it was like, you know, I think it was just like a recognition of how hard it was to get back here.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was like, let's go do something special. Let's continue to kind of do stuff that's never been seen before.
Right on. So we'll get right into your senior year here. The year that brought all this to fruition. So when you're coming into your senior year, it's a normal type season going into wrestling as far as the regular conference, you know, your duels, all that stuff. You're gaining steam and there's a lot of confidence. There's a lot of talk. I mean, just kind of listening to Flo, all those guys kind of talking as far as, are we going to see this as a final? We're going to see the Lee Glory final, you know, and that's kind of, I mean, I'll be honest with you. We were looking for it. You know, that was kind of the expectation. And we were also paying attention to how you had been doing. You know, we watched Spencer Lee. There was a lot of guys who watched, but we paid attention to how you were doing. And you were, it seemed like you were on kind of a little bit of a different level. It seemed like you were, because I think you kind of knew that now was not only your time, but you were going to finally have your time to be able to show what it's all about, you know, and especially if you get your hands on Lee. So I think that, to me, it seemed like from the outside looking in that you kind of had this freight train kind of attitude. It seemed like kind of going into the postseason. But when you're wrestling, kind of going through the regular season, were there any kind of things that you had to work on this year and in your senior year, kind of going into it to kind of cap that off a little more?
Yeah. You know, I think there was, you know, this year, you know, even though we won a national championship, it was a little bit of a rough year.
Yeah.
You know, we struggled. You know, I had some minor injuries that were kind of, you know, inhibiting me from, you know, being able to get down to weight, you know, every week. And I was struggling with, you know, do I go up? Do I go down?
Yeah.
Like, what do I do here? Because, you know, the wear and tear of the season, it's a long season, right? You know, for me, I'm, you know, personally, at some points in the season, I was one foot out the door.
Yeah.
Right. I did my internship this past summer.
Okay.
I had my job offer lined up. Like, I was like, okay, well, like, it doesn't really matter how the season goes. Like, I'm gonna have this job lined up anyways. Like, I'm going to graduate. I'm working on my thesis. You know what I mean? I had all this stuff on my plate. I'm like, why am I cutting this much weight when I can just go up to 33 and, like, you know, enjoy life and compete and not have to worry about missing weight and be able to do all this social stuff and XYZ, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, all these podcasts and stuff. And
yeah, right, exactly. And, you know, it was actually Haley, who was really the person, because I talked to my coaches, I talked to my teammates, I talked to my parents.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to go up to 33. And like, I kind of made the decision and like, I told everybody, I put it in the group chat. I reached out. I did all the due diligence that I needed to do to go up.
Okay.
for good.
Yeah.
And she sat me down and she's like, anybody is gonna, like, if anybody's gonna want to support you going up in weight, it's gonna be me.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one that's with you all the time.
Yeah.
I'm the one that has to deal with you when you're miserable at 125 and you're going, to work out at 10 o'clock at night on a Friday. Like,
yep.
who you coming back to?
Yeah.
You're coming back to me.
Yeah.
She's like, but I don't want to see you like make a decision because of a short term like pain or a short term like issue.
Yep.
Or because this is a long term thing. Like, you've worked so hard and you have this like crazy goal.
Yeah.
That she's like, I'm not going to say you can't accomplish it, but
right.
like, let's be realistic. Like, you know what you're capable of at 125, and like, she's like, I just don't want to see you hurt because of or like make have regrets.
Yep.
Because of like you're worried about short term issues.
You better put a ring on that.
And yeah, I know. Don't let her hear you that too loud. But yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I kind of really was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, and I love her. She didn't really know much about wrestling coming into before we first met.
Yeah.
And she's learned a lot.
Yeah.
She's really learned a lot
That's
about,
cool.
How this sport works and what goes into it, and what the decisions are.
Yeah.
That are attached to it. And so like I kind of had to really reconsider, and we went up for a couple matches. We kept our descent down. We were still making like 126 and a half and stuff like that, and wrestling up. But if anything, I feel like that actually helped me, because I was, getting tougher matches, wrestling, bigger guys, and still right around making weight. So
exactly.
Almost made it a little bit tougher for me, but but yeah, I'm glad we made the decision we did, and actually things got a lot easier after I stopped complaining about how hard it was.
That mental side again.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, once I was just like accepting what I had to do.
Yeah. Just do it.
Instead of avoiding what I knew I had to do.
Mm-hmm.
It just became part of nature and just like a part of like my everyday life.
I think it's
really wasn't too difficult in the long run, actually.
I think Mike Tyson said, I think he was the one that said that, do something that you don't like you like it.
Yeah.
Just do it
Literally.
like you like it, and then you'll get past it and you're done with it. And then it just turns into a cycle for you. So that's,
No, literally. I actually had to like find ways to like make things fun.
Yeah.
Make working out fun at on Friday nights at 10 o'clock fun. Find ways to like get your mind to like be like, okay, this is fine because you're gonna do this. You're gonna listen to good music. You're gonna like be by yourself. You know what I mean? Like you can watch Netflix on the treadmill or something.
Anything.
Whatever you can to justify it and get it okay in your mind.
Yep. Do it.
What works?
For sure. So you had a struggle. You're trying to figure out what you want to do with weight, but I'm sure you had that figured out before the middle of the season. It was something that I'm sure you kind of, especially by then, would want to have figured out. So once you start getting closer to tournament time, what are some of the thoughts going through your head? I mean, is there a certain focus you have? And I know that you want it one match at a time. It's not like you're thinking of the championships right away, but was there something in your mind that you specifically were trying to keep a mindful like note of as you're going through the season?
Just trust, I think.
Sure.
I think that like more than anything, it was just like, hey, like you're doing everything right. Like don't worry about how things have gone this far. Like just, if you get back to what you do consistently, like, well, you're going to be fine. So,
sure.
I think it was just like keeping the head down and just continue to do the work properly and, making sure that weight wasn't an issue and, just continuing to get better at wrestling. That was it.
So going into the NCAAs, are you comfortable? Were you comfortable when you got to the tournament?
Totally comfortable. I always felt comfortable at those tournaments. Like I live for those tournaments. Like I love that atmosphere. I love everyone being in the same hotel.
Yeah.
Like You know, you're walking in, you're seeing the guy you're wrestling in the first round with his teammates, and you're kind of staring him down and stuff. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's cool.
For
you
sure.
know what I mean? It's like, it's awesome. And like, it's very, very minimal times in my career have I been able to like just focus on wrestling.
Yeah.
You know, like not have to worry about school, not have to worry about, yada, yada, yada. Like,
and this year was
we were on spring break. We're, we get out there early, so we have a couple days to acclimate and get down to weight and not have to stress out about that too much from the get go. And it's everyone's there. My family was out there,
nice.
Like they were, everyone's kind of like helping me out in any way they can, helping me with laundry, helping me with like, getting drinks and stuff for post match and food. And so it's just awesome. All the attention was on me. I love it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So you get into the first couple rounds. It seemed like it was a no brainer. What was going on? I don't think you had any problems or struggles. So as you're getting into the first couple rounds, I mean, what were your thoughts? Are you like, all right, I got, this one's down. I got this one next. Just one match at a time for you, kind of like a focus. Cause like you said, you're relaxed. You had a lot of support going on. You didn't really have to think about too much, just about what you had going on. So was that freight train just kind of building as you got through all those first couple matches?
Yeah, honestly, I was pretty nervous.
Really?
For every match, but like, in like a good sense, like in like a butterfly, nerve, but like a confident sense of like nervousness, you know what I mean? But like, that's what I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like I was taking any match for granted, which is good, which is what I wanted to do. Because, I've seen things happen, to guys that were objectively the better wrestler and had a better season and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So I really focused on each guy like it was the national final, because I knew it's like, you don't get a shot. Everyone asked me like, oh, even like after the conference tournament, like, are you ready for Spencer Lee? Are you ready for Spencer Lee? I'm like, I gotta make it to Spencer Lee. You know what I mean? Like, I got 4 guys before him, like, so not yet. I'll be ready for Spencer Lee when he's the next guy that I got to compete against. Yeah. But like, for now, I'm focused on Reese Whitcraft. Yeah. And like, after that, then I was focused on Unger, who I had 2-0 back last time we wrestled. Yep. And like, then it's Courtney, and then it's Cronin, and then we focus on the finals.
All super easy guys, Pat. Super easy guys. Come on, man.
Right. Yeah.
So 2 questions. Where were you with that Lee and Ramos match? Like, were you done already, or like watching it?
Yeah, I was in the press conference. Actually, Bill Evans from NJ.com was the person who told me that I wasn't wrestling Spencer Lee.
So when you heard that, were you mad, or were you kind of like, all right, I mean, cool?
Yeah, I was pretty indifferent. I mean, like, the reality is that I had one person standing in the way of me winning a national championship, and whether that was Spencer Lee or whether that was Matt Ramos, who is also a very tough wrestler and someone who I don't really match up super well with, it didn't really matter. We're going to have a game plan, and we're going to have to execute on that game plan very, very, very well.
Yes.
Optimally to be able to get that win. So
then,
yes and no. Like, yes, I knew people were going to always be like, oh, well, he didn't wrestle Spencer Lee. But at the same time, I don't care. No. I don't really care what people say.
Right on.
You know what I mean? So people can speculate, and like, I love it. Like, I love the fact that it gets people talking and stuff. But like, I can't control that. No. I can control how I prepare and what I do for that next match, So
with that, obviously you always want to think, I'm going to win this match before you even step on that line. But like, when in the match were you like, all right, this is mine now. This isn't any, he's not going to be able to come back and try to sneak some. This is my match. I'm winning.
I can't lie to you. I really did feel that way the whole match. From like this, because like you can prepare, you can have this game plan, you can do all this stuff to like prepare,
but it's gotta happen.
But like, you have to make mid-match adjustments. You have to kind of feel things out in the match. And I knew that I was gonna find a way to get to his leg eventually. And we had watched him, like, he didn't really score much on his own leg attacks.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And like, we felt pretty good that like we're going to be able to score at least once.
Yep.
because we're gonna get our hands on the leg.
Yep.
We will.
Do you?
I was still totally uber confident that I was gonna get my hands. The only thing that we were worried about is like that little he does that like bundle where he like grabs your two elbows.
Yep.
And like, steps over sometimes if you're like holding on to a leg too much or something.
Yep.
What else is the camera here? Sorry. I was just getting a phone call.
Yeah.
But basically, I felt pretty good. I was like, he's not going to shoot on me in the match. You know what I mean? I just had a feeling that like, if I continue to attack and I continue to set the pace, that I was gonna get the one takedown that I needed. So in the match, it was after the takedown. Yeah, I knew I was in a good spot, and I knew I was gonna be smart. Like I was not gonna let him out with 30 seconds left to go and let him. I'll take 3 stall calls.
Right.
I'll hold on to that leg for dear life. You know what I mean? And like you got to be smart in those situations.
You can't hold on to his leg.
Trying to do some crazy throws and upper body stuff. Get out of there.
Yeah,
right?
get out.
You don't want to be there.
Yeah. Don't get
we'll take a stall call with 20 seconds left. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you got 20 seconds left. That was your stall warning.
Yep.
You're up by 4 points with riding time. You can drop down again. And by that time you only got a couple seconds left. So
run.
I just knew that I was not going to let anything.
Yeah, we had our
exactly run away.
we had our 126 pounder. He's wrestled this kid like 5 times already. He's beaten him, but he already had a stall warning and he was up by 2.
Yeah,
and there was like 5 seconds left. And he had gotten taken down before. Like it all of a sudden he was wrestling so well, and all of a sudden he was getting taken down. We were all like, ah. So 5 seconds later, he started sprinting, and they gave the other kid one, and then he did like the celebration. He was on his knees, stuff like that.
He's running around.
I was a little worried. I was like, why are we getting taken down?
So when you came out for the championships, there's a question. You came out with the American flag. What drove that? You don't see that. You see guys just run out. What drove you to come out with the American flag on?
I think the experience the year before, like I sprinted out, I got up on stage really quickly, and I was like, ready to hit the line right then and there. But like, it's still long, it's not like you just like right away you're wrestling, from when you get out there.
Yep.
And also it's like, how many times you get that opportunity? Like you're going to run and you're going to cut it in half,
right?
Like, what are you doing? Like, take your time, like, like enjoy it. Like,
take it in,
your wrestling's not going to change by how quickly you get out to the mat.
Right.
It's like,
exactly.
And also, it's like the year before I wrestled Soriano and I was losing pretty much the whole time, but like I had the crowd on my side.
Yeah,
the crowd was like cheering glory, glory, like in the crowd, and I'm like, I heard that in the match, and it did give me kind of a second win, but I wanted to get the crowd on my side too. So
nice.
Friday night I was kind of brainstorming, like ways to kind of get the crowd into it, kind of get people talking, like pump everybody up.
Yep.
What better way to do that? I've watched a million UFC fights. How many times you see a guy with, like Conor McGregor with his, Republic of Ireland flag on his back, or, a number of guys with the USA flags, like, you see it all the time.
Yep.
You see it all the time.
Yep.
So I'm like, why not get people talking here? Why not get the crowd into it?
Yep.
So, and like, it's old glory, it's like, it's old glory on my back. So why not, have a little bit of symbolism involved as well.
All glory with Pat glory. Makes sense. Makes total sense. So we talked about a little bit of some of the feelings you had in the match and things that were going on. You're getting to the last 10 seconds, right? Okay. So this has got to be where it starts. You could say it was 15, whenever it was for you, but when that kicks in for you, where you're like,
are you starting to cry on the mat, or
shit,
like
this
before it happened? Or?
This is going down, and so where do you find yourself mentally when you see those like 10 seconds ticking?
Yeah, it was actually after that last stall.
Okay, yeah.
With 1 second left.
Yeah.
I like looked up at my coaches and I was like, is there really only 1 second left? Like, we're actually going to do this. You know what I mean? Like, It didn't actually feel like it was real, And
that's awesome.
And so that, you don't ever really feel comfortable until that last whistle blows.
Yep.
But when I finally heard it, and it felt like an eternity, that last second felt a lot longer than 1 second. But when it finally blew, I just was overcome with relief, first of all, because a part of me justified that, like, hey, this may never happen. And, we're going to hold our chin up high, and we're going to be proud of what we accomplished, regardless of if we win, because this is hard, and we put it together for 4 years, and we can hang our hat, hang our hat on that, no matter what. So there was that. It was like, wow, it actually did happen. Like there's so many things that needed to go well for me, and like there was so much, community around me, and like
that's cool.
The support system from day one. It just like you don't realize how there is luck involved. There really is, like, right, like a lineage of like things that need to go right for you to be able to accomplish something like that. So all the people that have kind of been with me since day one running through my head, and no doubt it was hard for me to hold back the tears.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
And not only that, but like how much that meant for the program. Like I knew how long, like Coach Ayers and Coach Dubuque, literally, he was a 2-time national champion himself, but I don't think he ever coached one.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. He's the one that's in the room with me at 6 a.m. getting weight off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like not a lot of people would be willing to do that. So I just had a lot of appreciation because it was so much greater than me. Like it was. I was like, the people that I was thinking about were the people that were sitting Matt's side, like my parents and my little brother and my little sister. And
how cool for them.
My girlfriend who flew out. She flew out. She's not in the car anymore, but she flew out to Tulsa with her mom. They didn't get in until 1 a.m. on Friday night.
Oh.
And they just basically they slept in, right up until Quincy's 3rd, 4th match. And then, it was like their first real like major wrestling tournament. So her mom was like, this is awesome. Like, this is so cool. She was loving it. They were a little skeptical about Tulsa. They were like, hey, we don't really know about this place.
Kind of weird place. It's a little weird.
They love it.
I don't know.
They love it.
We went down to Tulsa duels. I took a dual team down there. We were in right across the street from where you guys were, and just just going around town down there it was like, man, I thought this was going to be a little different. Like I thought it was going to be kind of it's not a whole lot going on.
What, they did a great job. They did a great job. The box center, it was great. It was great.
Yep. And that was because when we went to the Tulsa duels down there for those guys, we went to Big 12s, and that was a good time. They had well put together. It was a lot of, just being able to be right down to the floor like that. It was a good event. But so with the end, you did your interviews, and you kind of you're still taking it in. What are you doing in the back? Is it just everybody, teammates are in the locker room? You guys jumping around? Is you guys doing the World Series champagne stuff? How's that going back there? Just kind of tears flowing.
Quite the opposite. So,
is it a buffet? Is it a buffet? Be honest.
There literally, it was like my worst nightmare.
Whoa!
I was told that the wrestling was the hard part. It's actually like after the wrestling's over, that's the hard part.
Oh, no.
There's a million things you got to do, right? So you go, you do your interview, right off the mat with ESPN, which is cool. That was obviously the one that everyone's going to remember probably.
Yep.
And then I got to shake hands with Donald Trump, right?
That's
president.
right.
That was really cool.
Yep.
So my family got a picture with him and stuff. And so that was a cool experience. And then right from there, I went to my press conference. And then, so that press conference probably lasted, another 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then basically there was a guy waiting outside my press conference that escorted me to my drug test.
Oh.
So like they test for PEDs and, what have you and all that.
After the tournament?
But they only test the champs.
Oh,
so,
God.
And basically what happens is I was the third to last match. If you don't finish your sample by the time the wrestling's over and you got to go take your champ picture, you got to dump it all out and start all over again. So it's like, it's me, Nino Bonacorsi, and Aaron Brooks in there. And like Nino's like on the floor, like doing crunches, trying to get his bladder going. And like, we're chugging waters, right? Like, I had to go number 2. So I'm like asking them if like there's a protocol for that.
Put that in the cup,
like, don't worry about it. We got a protocol. Don't worry.
So there's a video.
So it was definitely but I didn't want to getting out of there until 10:30 at night.
Oh man.
And so I'm thinking to myself, thank God I'm not Vito or Yanni or or Alirez, because they probably didn't get out of there until close to midnight. I mean, it took me a solid hour and a half to get the amount of pee that I needed to get out of me.
That's crazy.
But then after that, so that was like, so finally it was like just me and Dubuque, and I'm signing autographs. I gave out my shoes, took a bunch of pictures, all that stuff.
Yep.
Finally, Dubuque looks at me. He grabs me by the arm. He goes, "Don't look at anybody. Don't say anything. Don't do anything. Just run towards the exit. Just run. Just like, we're going to head down. Don't look at anybody. Don't say anything. Just go towards the exit. We got a car waiting for us." And then the Mondays put together this like social for like all the alumni and for the people that were out there, the Princeton faithful.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal. At the Greenwood Cultural Center, it was buffet spread like you wouldn't believe. I was drinking with all the alumni, right? So it was great. It was great. So it was awesome.
So Vito on Instagram, there's a video of him when he won saying the heart, or like, everything's done. I'm done now. Yeah. And they go, and then like his coach is like, "No, you got to go do this, this, and this." He goes, "Yeah, but the wrestling part, the hard part's done." So is he wrong? Yeah. The hard part wasn't done.
I guess it depends. It depends on what your definition of hard is. I kind of was expecting to just like wrestle and walk out the front door and celebrate my family, but I didn't get to see my family for probably 2.5 hours after I wrestled. Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. Yeah,
you hear about so like watching like there's a special on the Dave Schultz, and when not on Terry when he ran out and the wad of guys are following him. I can't believe that they do that for the NCAA champs. Like, they're waiting for you to find out. Didn't they figure that out like before? Like, I'm just kind of curious. Like, it's weird how there's just the kind of rules and the things that you guys got to go through at such a high level with the trustworthiness, like taking drug tests after you win.
Well, there's not a whole lot of trustworthy.
Well, it's kind of crazy, but that's I kind of see where that's an annoyance. That's kind of that's a grievance, I would say.
Yeah. I was kind of just like, hey, like, maybe you just do all the finalists, right? Like, I don't know how, like, that doesn't seem like it would be that hard, and you do it beforehand. We had all day leading up to the finals to do whatever you wanted us to do. But, it's like,
now at the end when I'm completely
I don't
dehydrated.
At that point, I'm like, get me out of here as quick as I can.
You didn't care. You won. You're like, whatever. Tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it.
Right. Exactly.
Right on. Well,
and they were great people. Like, I can't complain. Like, they were awesome.
Oh, they're just doing their job.
They were super nice.
They got rules they got to follow too. But, well, dude, hey, man, we've taken up plenty of your time. You've been on for an hour and 40 minutes. Actually, pretty good for an athlete. I think the only thing we want to find out is what's going on after. You gonna get your face beat in MMA or
UFC? Try it.
I don't think my mom would be too happy with me, Liam, if I go to the UFC after the amount of money she pumped into my education. So,
right on.
I think I got to preserve the guy between the two ears,
the glory face.
But that being said, so I have this job on Wall Street that I worked really hard to get.
Nice.
Are you still gonna still try to wrestle, like not coach? Wrestle, but like kind of be around the wrestling environment still, or are you gonna just?
So that's what I'm trying to figure out now. So basically, I'm going to Vegas in April for the U.S. But I was misinformed. I thought that this is like the qualifier for next year for the Olympics.
No,
but it's not. This is just for the Worlds for this year.
Correct.
Right. So basically, I'm going to go there, see what happens, and then basically, play it by ear. Well, I would love to continue to compete, but the reality is, like, I'm turning 23, and at some point, like, the shoes got to hang up, and it's like, do I want that to be two more years from now, and then I'm starting my career when I'm 25, or do I want to start my career at 23 and get through the analyst phase quickly, and then be making money and getting up the chain of command by the time that I'm getting into my 30s, you know what I mean? So it's a hard decision. And then that being said, like, goals, I want to be around the program for another 2 years. I want to be an RTC athlete and wrestle with these, the future, Tiger 25, 33, 41 pounders and like, give back my knowledge. But it's like, at some point you gotta figure out what's best for you. And I'm not 100% sure what that is yet.
Yeah.
So
you just got done.
Right. It's tough. I mean, listen, it's you don't realize how quickly this turnaround really is. So,
yeah.
I didn't really have much time to celebrate. It was like, let's figure out what comes next,
yeah.
And
yeah.
But that, listen, these are good problems to have,
totally.
no doubt about it. And
you got your head up,
and it's a win-win. Man. It's a win-win for me, regardless of anything that comes after this. So
for sure,
I'm blessed to be in that position, and things will work itself out.
Totally. Well, we're proud of you, man. We were cheering for you. We were screaming when you won.
Bill Peters was.
Yeah, the whole household that we were in. So Wisconsin was behind you. Don't worry. We were definitely behind you. Yeah.
I love it. Shout out Ben Askren, too. I don't know if you guys are Askren guys, but...
that's where he goes. Yep. He's an AWA
okay, good.
kid.
I was going to say, there's no way that's a coincidence. But he was like one of the first people to like ever like see something in me. I don't know.
Really?
He was like always one of the big proponents in me, and I always remembered that. And so
he's a good dude.
Shout out to Ben, to Funky Bunky. He's the man.
Right on. Who else?
And I mean, I hope to get out. I mean, listen, if I ever get out to Wisconsin, I'd love to come out and meet you guys and
do it
and figure something out, because I actually was supposed to go out this weekend for I guess it's called Guys Weekend or something at UW.
Really? Interesting.
I guess it's like a big party weekend for them. I was going to go visit my sister, but we have our banquet on Friday, and like I have to be back for an event on Sunday in Princeton. So it just was a little quick of a turnaround. But if I do get out there,
look us up, man.
I would love to. I would love to. That would be awesome.
You'd be coming by one of the nationally ranked high schools in the country, Kaukauna, Wisconsin.
Cool.
Three-peat.
Yeah, three-peat. They won 3 this past year was their third one, and hopefully Liam and Crew and Petey and all the other guys can lead to a fourth one. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But
yeah, buddy.
Yeah. Look us up for sure. We'll definitely we got
Drop
an extra spot here. We got we're gonna have a couch down here pretty soon. We're putting it all together. So but
nice.
Pat, we appreciate your time, man. And tell your girlfriend again, thank you. Highly appreciated. She's not in the car right now, so she sounds like she's got her head on just like you do. So you're a smart guy. Smart guy, and she's a smart woman. So appreciate it. Have fun out there. Take it in. Do what you got to do and have fun doing it. We are going to cut you out. We do want to talk to you for 1 second, though, once we get done with the show
no
here.
doubt.
So 1 second.
Of course.
On that note, Liam and I, Pat Glory, the Vision Quest podcast says adios, amigos. All of our episodes are brought to you by Appleton Tattoo, located at 117 South Appleton Street in Appleton, Wisconsin, right off the main drag on College Avenue. You can't miss them. I've had some work done. I have a Celtic cross that covers my back that was done by Jason. We're not done yet. Jason Winans and crew, the artists that he have there, those guys are the best in the Fox Valley. They are definitely one to go to if it's something that you've just been kind of throwing around. They'll make you feel comfortable. It's a very clean environment. Very nice crew, and very willing to get done whatever you need done when you need it done. You can message them on Facebook. I know they're on Facebook. You can give them a call at 920-604-8289 and get in touch with Jason Winans and crew at Appleton Tattoo, located again in Appleton, Wisconsin at 117 South Appleton Street, right in Appleton. Very flexible hours, great crew, clean environment again. I would not send you anywhere else except for these guys. Appleton Tattoo.